Hello and welcome, my name is Secure and this is my Let's Play series of Europa Universalis IV where we are playing as Germany. And I just discovered that there's someone who's been hiding down here. The Knights. Let's go take care of them. You stay there. And get on that boat. Let's go take care of the Knights. Can't just have part of Europe not being controlled by us, you know? So it's exciting if we can take this before the end of the campaign. So probably have a level 8 fort. God knows how they can pay for that. They don't have a fort. Then it should be probable for us to take it. Yeah, that was pretty quick. Actually, you just go here. You can stay down up here somewhere. Is there any more? Like, if we should take more, I don't think we can. I don't think we have time to core it. Nope. You're already coring things into 22, so no raw reason to take stuff. Now it's just yeah, it's the end. It's the end. Okay, well, I'm gonna use this episode then to talk a little bit about how we did. Let's just do a timeline while I talk. Let's just start it up here. So we are here. So yeah, well, the goals for this campaign from the start were to form Prussia and then form Germany, and we certainly did that. The achievements are listed at hard, I believe, on the Wikipedia, and I think they actually forming Prussia might not be that hard. You certainly do need to know the basic principles of the game, because Brandenburg is pretty small to begin with, but they are also pretty powerful and have a pretty easy time of expanding. As you can see, we expanded pretty quickly. But forming Germany is rather hard because you have to kill almost all of the HRE, and that's tough. You definitely need to understand how aggressive expansion works for that to succeed, and I would definitely recommend that you go for influence for that smaller AE gain. And I would recommend that you do as much as you can to get any kind of what is called better relations over time bonuses that will help you bleed that AE off faster. So yeah, but other than that, it actually went pretty smooth, I think. We had problems taking over Europe to start with when we went back there. So as you'll see in a moment, we kind of formed Prussia and then basically spent a lot of time taking over Muscovy, taking over a bunch of land out here in the east, and it ended up being pretty nice for us because that ended up giving us a huge manpower pool that we could then throw at Europe, so that the wars we had there were pretty fast and easy. and also gave us something to do while we were waiting for all that aggressive expansion to bleed off. Of course, we were pretty lucky getting that union over France, but it's not like we wouldn't have been able to do this. It would just have meant a couple of annoying, well, not a couple, probably like 4 or 5 annoying wars against France to take them over. But it's not, if you go back and look through the wars we had while we were overlords over France, they didn't actually help that much. I think there were like 1 or 2 wars in Europe where we actually used their armies, or where their armies actually made a difference. But other than that, most of our wars while we were overlords over France were in the east, and they didn't really send their armies out there, so it was really nice to get all of that land for free, and it probably staved off a war or two, of like prevented other people from declaring on us. But yeah, I don't think it was that important to the campaign, to be honest. Yeah. So as you can see here, it's taking quite a long time to get going with this campaign. We are now in 1553, and we're still just a tiny country in Europe. Well, not that tiny, but we are Prussia now. So let's talk a little bit about Prussia. Prussia is so OP, especially early, or right when you form Prussia and you work towards that goose step. Once you get that 50% bonus, you are just slicing through Europe like it was butter. Of course, later on, as we saw, a lot of the other countries also got combat bonuses, and it then changed to from a overwhelming bonus to just a pretty nice bonus. But throughout the game, we could pretty much just do what we wanted. We only ever had problems with the Ottomans, so that was only because they had amazing amounts of manpower and armies. But other than that, we didn't really have any problems. Austria was pretty easily beat, even though he was the dominant power in Europe. As I said, the only problem we really ended up having taking over the Holy Roman Empire was aggressive expansion. And that was really only until we kind of surrounded it. Once we integrated France and we could basically attack from all sides, we could keep truce timers on everyone and make sure that no coalitions formed, and that made it pretty easy to grab all of Europe. So let's talk about the other achievements that we got. Well, we dismantled the Holy Roman Empire, and I should probably have researched that ahead of time, but I didn't actually know that you couldn't be the emperor when you did it, and it almost ended up ruining it all, because there were only 2 countries left by the time I realized it. So yeah, beware of that if you're trying the same. Again, it wasn't like forming Germany and ruining the HRE, pretty much the same thing, at least if you're a German nation. So you might as well do those 2 achievements together, because you need to take almost all of HRE to form Germany, and you can't be in the HRE to form Germany, so might as well do those 2 things together. Then the rest of the game was just basically seeing how much we could get. And we did end up getting most of, let's zoom out a little bit here. We did end up getting all of Europe, and I was trying to see in the end if we could get enough land to form the Holy Roman Empire, but especially Syria and Iraq becoming protectorates instead of vassals screwed me over there, and I still don't know why they became that. That's still kind of weird to me. It must have been because that area was in such bad state with technology or something. But that really annoyed me that I released them as protectorates, because that meant I couldn't like take them over. If they were the only things, they were basically the only thing that we lacked in order to be able to do the Holy Roman Empire, except for Malta, which we wouldn't have been able to core in time. But that just leaves that achievement for our Byzantium game, which will be coming up next. So what else can we talk about? Yeah, we ended up having 4 fleets, and I think that's almost the minimum amount if you want to have a global empire like this. You do basically need a Eastern fleet, a African fleet, a European fleet, and a American fleet. And to be honest, I should probably have gone for a couple more fleets. We didn't really need all of those trade ships to dominate trade in the end. So I would probably, if you have the money and the force limit for it, I would probably have ended up doing 1 or 2 European fleets, 1 African fleet, 1 Eastern fleet, and then 1 South American and 1 North American fleet, being on each side of the continent. Because unless you build the Suez Canal or Panama Canal, it just takes too long of a time going around there. You might be able to get away with just one Pacific fleet that shares between Asia and like the west coast of the Americas, but yeah, I would say 4 fleets is the absolute minimum spread out, because otherwise it just takes too long to transport things around. Money-wise, we didn't really have that many problems once we captured the English Channel. And for the longest time, I actually just forgot about the fact that we had to collect in Genoa and Venice to get all of that money. That was like 200 ducats plus modifiers, so probably around 300 ducats that we were missing out on for so long. So if you're ever doing this, conquering Europe, remember to collect in those end nodes. Otherwise, you're just missing all of that nice money. But yeah, it was a pretty fun campaign. As you can see, in the end, we were pretty far away from an actual world conquest. To do that, we would have to have conquered at a maybe not so much at a faster pace at the beginning of the game, but once we formed Prussia, we should probably have spent all of our points on coring stuff. We end up spending a lot of points on development, and that's not really feasible if you are doing a world conquest. Also, I don't think Prussia has enough discounts to be able to do it really easily. We basically lacked, like, India has a lot of development. I think Ming at this point probably also had a lot of development, so there was a lot of land left to core, and it's not like we were overflowing with points for the last couple hundred years of the game, so yeah, definitely need more bonuses, but that's why you do it with Ottoman, right? Coptoman for the win. And I even saw, just to talk about something else, I saw a guy here on YouTube who somehow got to 93% coring cost, or modifier, so he only paid 7% to core by doing a tribal Coptic Ottoman. That was pretty insane. Anyway, I think this game went pretty goddamn decent. We got a lot of achievements. Let's just go to a little bit faster speed here, and the end here wasn't probably... It was basically just mopping up. We ended up taking quite a lot of war with Ottomans. That's another thing. If you want to do a world conquest, don't let countries get away like that. You need to get to... so we got to Muscovy pretty early on, but you need to... All of those countries that normally bluff, you need to get to them as fast as possible. So that's Ottoman, that's France, that's Spain, Portugal as well, just because they get so many annoying islands all over the place. Ming, you need to get to Persia if that forms. You need to get into India before that becomes a thing. And especially like Portugal and Brazil, like you don't want things like Peru and Louisiana and La Plata and stuff like that forming. That's just annoying to deal with. That you have to actually go over and conquer it. The optimal situation with the colonies is if you can fully annex them while they're still controlling all of their colonies. So that's why getting them early on might be a good idea. And you can always just vassalize them if you want them to keep colonizing over here. Vassalize them when you can do that. Anyway, let's look at our achievements. We have quite a lot. So a fine goose step is kind of the Prussia achievement. It requires you to have 125 discipline, and you can get that by, let's see, you get, if I can find it, you get 5% discipline for Prussia. For quality you get 5%, for offensive you get 5%. And then, of course, if you are Prussia, you can just dump some points into into this, and you can get up to, I think it's 20, 15 or 20. Where can I see? Let's just increase it. Yeah, so we can get 10 discipline from this, so that would be enough all of its own. But then, of course, there are some, if I can find it, policies that you can enact. So we have, oh, where do I get all my discipline from? I don't remember now. Full quality, split decor, Prussian ambition, materialization, and holy sacraments. Oh yeah, that's from being Protestant. Yeah, okay. So that's where we get the goose steps. That's pretty easy, once you have formed Prussia anyway. Decent reserve was pretty tough. That's a lot of country, or a lot of land you have to take over. And I also built quite a lot of army regimental camps. All your trader belong to us. I kind of got that, I wouldn't say by mistake, but by happenstance, just by taking over Europe. That's the quote-unquote easiest way to get it. Another way to get it would be to play as England, dominate English Channel, use all the money to build up a bunch of trade ships, and then go send them to Genoa and Venice. That's another way to do it. Germany, we already talked about. Fanatic Collectivist is just taking over all of the origin provinces, and depending on how spread out they are, you basically have to take over most of Europe. Could of course do more surgical strikes than my just taking all of Europe, but it's one of those pretty difficult. Well, yeah, it is pretty difficult, but it's more like a long achievement. It's one of those achievements where you do have to play almost all to the end. Then this one is one of those happenstance ones. You need to have a siege specialist, which is a random modifier, and once you have him, just make sure to go to war and have him win a siege. Georgia on my mind, just get all the Georgias. Again, that's one of those long achievements, but it's one of those that you can go for in pretty much any run. You just have to own Georgia and the provinces over here that has something to do with Georgia. Ruin Emperor we talked about. Princess in the Castle, again, completely random. Start with a female, have a female heir in a castle in your capital, and be aware that it only counts if it's a castle. If you've upgraded it, it doesn't count. So either you have to keep a castle in your capital for the whole game, which would probably be the easiest way of getting this achievement, or you just have to be lucky in the early game, which I think we were. Then there is This Is My Faith. That's probably the easiest achievement we did. That's so easy. And World Discoverer. That took a while, but again, that's also just one of those long things. If you're doing a campaign like this where you're trying to take over as much of the world as possible, you can do it. It's just a matter of going to war with the right people, sending out a conquistador, stuff like that. Anyway, let's just let the game run until the end date, which is in about a year. And Kiel Canal finished, interesting. And we can actually get Diplomatic to the final. Let's just wait here. I don't care about all of these things, just get me to the end date. But yeah, thank you all for watching this series, it's been really fun. As you may already know, the next series will be Byzantium, which will be the start will be a little bit more difficult than this one, but otherwise I think it will be kind of the same sort of campaign, except that I will be focusing a lot more on Europe. I'll be trying to see if it's possible for me to form the Holy Roman Empire. But first off, of course, we need to complete the Basileus and just reform the Byzantium Empire. But why not go for the Holy Roman Empire with the remainder of the Holy Roman Empire? And here it is. The end of the game ended up with 22,369 score, which isn't too bad. Yeah. Our ideas, let's talk about them. So, the ideas I chose were based on Prussia, not Conquest. So we started out with innovative, quality. These are for getting the 50% bonus on infantry. There's an idea or a decision with these two combined. Otherwise, innovative is also a pretty nice idea in general, although if you're going for a world conquest, it's not one of those that you can afford to take. Influence was for less aggressive expansion, all-round good idea, always good to have. It's one of those that require you to do quite a lot of conquering before it's worth it. So like if you're playing a very small campaign or a very small country, it might not be worth it, but it's a must-have for any huge conquest, and especially for world conquest, for the aggressive expansion and discounts on Diplo annexing. Offensive ideas, again, it was to get the discipline for the goose step, and also for some extra, like if you're taking you have to take some military ideas, and quality and offensive are just the two best of them. Of course, if you have a small country, it might be better to take quantity, because it's better to be able to be at war all the time than be good when you are at war. So there's that. Administrative ideas, probably the most important idea group if you're doing a lot of conquering, just because it gives that modifier on coring cost. Exploration, well, you need that if you wanna, well, you could also just wait for the spread, but if you wanna go into a new world, it's a pretty good idea to take exploration at least at some point. In most world conquest, you'll end up having this. In general, if you're doing a let's see how much I can conquer, you'll probably want exploration at some point. But as I did here, you'll probably end up taking it pretty late. Quantity was only so I can get the million manpower. It's not really worth it in this case. Same with defensive ideas. I would probably have gone, if I were doing a world conquest, I would probably have taken diplomatic ideas, so I had a little bit more freedom with ending, for example, ending those two protectorates if I accidentally pick up stuff like that. I would probably have gone for humanism, for less separatism, with those two slots instead. So yeah. Otherwise, yeah, that was a pretty fun game. Glad you joined me for this. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider the like button, subscribing, and hope you join me for my next campaign with Byzantium. Until then, have a good day.